if our body's not broken, which is what I'm trying to say, it's not that the body is broken. There's something else going on here. And that something else is that the body has turned on an intelligent response. Okay, so pain is an intelligent response of the body. What is that? What do I mean by that? How could pain be intelligent? Well, I've often come back to the concept that pain is protection in the body. So the body has done this many times and it will do this. If you get an injury, it turns on pain to protect you. So I'm going to use the example of last 2 years ago now. I was training for a trail run race, and I was running down Marble Mountain ski hill in my backyard here, and I was going kind of fast, but I lost my footing. I didn't trip, but I did kind of land funny or step funny on my ankle. And so I, twisted my ankle. It was painful. Obviously I had, some of the ligaments or whatever had stretched too far. It swelled up. It was horribly bruised and it was painful. That was an intelligent response of the body. It turned on pain because there was an acute injury there. It didn't want me to walk on it because it was focusing its attention on protecting that area so that it could heal. So that's an acute pain situation. So that's a little bit different. Now, what would be a strange thing is, that injury happened, I think 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. If that pain started up again now for no reason, then I would start to question that. Why is my body turning on pain now? That injury is long since healed. This is when it can still turn on pain as an intelligent response, but now it's not a response to an injury. Now it could be a response. It's still a protective response, but maybe it's got another meaning. It could be that I'm feeling stressed for some reason. And because that pathway for pain, hasn't been used for a while, but it was there, my brain could decide that it's going to use that pathway that it already knows, turn that pathway on again, and turn on some protection, which might be nothing, well, it would be nothing to do with the ankle injury, but it might have something to do with, hey, if I turn on that pain again, Jane's going to stay home, she's not going to interact with people, and that will help protect her. So you can see how our brain and nervous system can still use pain as a form of protection. It's just now it's not protecting for an injury, it's protecting on some other level. So it's still an intelligent projector. So it's kind of like if you think about a smoke alarm. Okay, so let's use this a little bit of an analogy. Sometimes you got smoke alarms. This happens to us all the time. We've just got something like baking in the oven and it gets a little bit hot, or maybe there was something that had spilled on the bottom of the oven and that's kind of burning up. And the smoke detector will go off like for no reason. There's no smoke, but it just starts to go off. It just becomes like highly sensitive. The same thing can happen to our body. Right? It can become highly sensitive. And it doesn't mean that there actually is smoke or that there actually is fire. It's just like, going off because it's overly sensitive. And, but why has it gotten overly sensitive? We'll talk about that in a moment. So a protection system can create distress without there being any defect. I mean, actually look at that smoke detector, right? It's not really a defect. It's just a little bit overly sensitive. So again, I want to say, it doesn't mean that any pain you're experiencing is not real pain. It's all real pain if you're feeling pain. It doesn't mean that the pain is in your head or you're making it up. All pain actually all sensations will get filtered through the brain. The brain decides what to do with it. Two people can experience something very similar and have very different results. The brain can also decide that it's going to turn on or off pain depending on what it thinks might best serve you at the time. Often in my webinars, I talk about delayed pain. So this is examples of this are people who are hurt like in combat or people that are hurt in the wilderness and they have to get out of wherever this injury has happened in order, or else they're going to die. And so the brain will actually turn off pain in those situations and they get to safety again. And then all of a sudden pain turns on and they'll say, but I didn't feel any pain until this point. Lots of documented cases of that. So that's like such a clear example of the brain making a decision on how can I best protect this person right now, this body right now. So sometimes it might decide that it's not going to turn pain on if it deems there's there's a better way I can protect this person. Okay, so sometimes we can begin protecting ourselves from protection. Now, what do I mean by that? The mind can send a signal. So the body sends a signal actually to the mind, and then the mind might interpret that signal as danger. And so you start paying attention to it a little bit more. So, let's use my ankle as an example. Like if I'm running now and I feel a little something in my ankle, I might go, oh no, that's that old injury. And I might start bracing or favoring it or thinking that I shouldn't keep running. And actually this did happen to me recently. I started noticing that same ankle was like starting to hurt. I'm like, wait a minute. I know what this is. Of course, whatever you're teaching, you can expect to get lessons in that. So I got that lesson. And so I kept telling myself, nothing to be alarmed about. That's just that old injury. Just keep running. You're fine. I could have told myself a different story. I could have said, oh no, that injury is acting up again. I better stay off it. But I kept on running. I don't even notice it. It's not there anymore. So, our interpretation of it can change. And then once we start, bracing and protecting, we're sending more evidence to the brain of this isn't safe, this isn't good, because we're interpreting it that way. And so we can even then, create more pain. I talk often about the pain fear cycle. And so we have pain and then we start to have fear about the pain. Oh no, what's this going to mean for my future? And then from that, we're having this fear. And so then our brain goes, uh-oh, Jane's like a little worried about the future. Things aren't safe here. I better turn on more protection. So it turns on more pain. We have more fear. Oh no, the pain is getting worse. Right. And so we can get stuck in the cycle where the pain keeps escalating. And not only that, we can become more sensitized to pain. So it takes then very little for us to feel pain even more intensely. So we don't want that. So what I want you to understand about this is that, a pattern of pain can develop, and it might even show up in other ways as well, that it may have showed up even before you got pain. You may have been stressed. You may have been having, if you are a people pleaser or a perfectionist, or you're hypervigilant or hyper independent, those are protective behaviors that may have started long before the pain started. And we never really resolved those root cause issues. And I'll get to those, I don't know about today, but maybe in another episode. Well, those behaviors are signs that on some level, our brain and nervous system still think we need to protect ourselves. And so eventually, it might start with a little whisper. Maybe you get like a pain in your shoulder or you get tendonitis, and then eventually can become even more, and then, becomes a shout, right? And then a sledgehammer in the form of pain. So again, coming back to, this doesn't mean your body is broken. It just means that your body is continuing to get the signal that you need to be protected. And so it keeps responding in an intelligent way by turning on more protection. Okay, body's not broken.